Swadika, welcome to be my guest. I'm Cholapansa Narula. Thank you very much for joining us. To bolster Thailand's economic growth, the Department of Trade Negotiations is moving forward in global trade, forging partnership with individual countries and seeking more free trade agreements. Today we'll be joined by Kun Oramon Saptavitam, Director General of the Trade Negotiations Department, Ministry of Commerce, to find out more on these developments.
Swadika.
Kun Oramon, thank you very much for joining us today. To see continued economic growth, the Department of Trade Negotiations is working on a number of measures. Kindly tell us a bit about these strategic plans in the remainder of 2018.
Yes, the Department of Trade Negotiations, we are involved in FTA negotiations as well as any dialogue with our trading partners. But at present, the FTA negotiations may take some time to enter into force. So our strategy right now is to trying to conduct a strategic economic partnership. This is the initiative of Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Somkit Jatusipitak, because we see that there's a lot of potential between us and our trading partners. Perhaps there are sectors that we can work together without no need to wait for the FTA negotiations. And we see the potential of the new markets. So at present, for example, in South Asia, we are discussing with Sri Lanka, Bangladesh to see whether we can conduct a strategic economic partnership.
I see. So you're working on a lot of plans actually to help the economy grow.
Yes.
But then again, coming back to the statistics we see as of late, Thailand's trade value with partner countries through the FTAs has seen tremendous results.
Yes.
So give us an overview on the growth we saw in the past year.
For the FTA that Thailand has right now, we have 12 FTAs with 17 countries. The FTA from the enter into force, the first one is with ASEAN countries. Since 2003, almost 20 years up, we see a lot of growth in the volume of trade. With ASEAN, the trade volume has grown to 700%. This is the first rank of the 12 FTA that we have. Number two is the ASEAN-India. The growth is around 400%. So you see that compared with the countries that we trade, but without FTA, such as the US and the EU, we look at the growth at the same period. The growth of volume of trade is only around 70 to 60%. So you can see a big difference between FTA countries. This is because when we have FTA with our trading partners, the aim is to reduce the tariff to 0%, and with ASEAN we are able to do it. The last basket in the 1st of January. So since the 1st of January this year, most 99% of all the tariff between ASEAN countries is zero. So that's the reason.
We see quite a lot of growth between China, ASEAN, and Thailand, India.
Yes, and for China, ASEAN, it's number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah, the growth is 260% from the entry into force, the volume of trade growth. So it's the number 1 ASEAN, number 2 is Thai, India, number 3 is ASEAN, China.
And currently you're also working to see more FTAs happening. You mentioned about Sri Lanka. When do you expect talks to be settled?
For Sri Lanka, we haven't yet started the FTA, but we have discussed with Sri Lanka, and we have submit the framework to start FTA negotiations to the cabinet. The cabinet has already approved it in May. So hopefully soon, within this year, we can see the new FTA negotiations between Thailand and Sri Lanka. But currently on the table, we have FTA Thai-Pakistan, Thai-Turkey, and the regional FTA, which we call RCEP. This is the ASEAN's plus 6 countries FTA. So the RCEP one is very big because the volume of trade is around 60% of the trade volume that Thailand has with our trading partner. So you can see that it's a very big amount, and it's a comprehensive FTA. It's expand beyond trade in goods. It's also talk about investment, services, and other laws and regulation. For example, competition, intellectual property. So we see this is a big potential and a big benefit
for Thailand.
For Thailand and for our trading partner as well.
You mentioned Pakistan. So do we have this FTA being settled already, or?
Not yet. Pakistan, we have started FTA negotiations.
Just the negotiations?
Yeah, with Pakistan for a few years. And negotiation has been going on. I think right now we have the 9th round. So the aim is to try to conclude it. Actually, we aim to conclude this year. But because when we discuss with Pakistan at present, we need to wait for Pakistan to host the next round of the negotiations.
And when is that going to happen?
We are not sure yet, still discussing, because Pakistan, sometimes they have a resource constraint in order to set up the date. Yeah. Soon, I think.
Soon. By the end of this year, we should see some progress, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And then there's Turkey.
Turkey.
I believe that is expected to conclude before the celebration, the 60th anniversary, Thai-Turkey.
Actually, this year is the 60th anniversary of Thailand and Turkey relationship. We just launched the FTA negotiations with Turkey last year, around the mid of the year. And last month, Turkey is host the FTA, the 3rd round. So next time it will be Thailand turn. We are waiting for Turkey signal because right now Turkey is going to have election in its country. So perhaps after Turkey have election, then we can settle the date. And we hope that perhaps beginning of next year we can see substantial progress because for Turkey as well, it will be comprehensive FTA, not only trade in goods, but it will also expand to investment and services.
Now, another dialogue partner, which is our neighbor, Hong Kong. I believe that there is some negotiations going on as well. Can you update us with Hong Kong?
Actually, with Hong Kong, ASEAN and Hong Kong has already settled the FTA negotiations last year, and it's going to enter into force beginning of January next year. So I believe that this is also another benefit for Thai entrepreneur because Hong Kong will reduce all the tariff in goods to 0. Normally, you may wonder that Hong Kong is a country that you can send goods free out of tariff, but the tariff hasn't yet been bound. So that means Hong Kong can increase the tariff anytime, but under the FTA negotiations, it will be bound every tariff line. So this is one of the benefits. The other benefit is that we have negotiated with Hong Kong that we can go to set up some sector, for example, broadcast and radio for Thailand, for yourselves. If you want to operate a business in Hong Kong, now we can do it.
It's going to be easier.
100% ownership.
Wow,
Yeah.
Interesting indeed. So that's an overview within Asia. What about outside Asia?
Outside Asia.
Like Europe, that it has been suspended for a period, I believe, after the coup that took place.
Yes.
Are we actually back to the negotiating table with the EU?
The EU has sent a very good signal. Last year, I think the Council of the EU mentioned that they can reconvene communication with Thailand at all levels. So right now we have started, discussing, talking with the EU. Thailand is going to host the working group, trade and investment working group with EU in July. And this will be an opportunity for us to discuss trade and investment issue as well as economic cooperation. But to reconvene the FTA negotiations, we may have to wait, for the election of the countries
to take place, which is probably.
But at present we can exchange and update, each other on laws and regulation, because during the past few years, Thailand, we have enacted a new law. We have made lots of progress. So I think it's a good potential for our country.
We'll now take a short break. Don't go away just yet. When Be My Guest returns, we'll take a look at another agreement, which is RCEP. Stay with us. Welcome back to Be My Guest. We are still with the Director General of the Department of Trade Negotiations, Kun Oramun. Apart from FTA that we were talking about earlier, there's also the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about this agreement and how it will benefit Thailand.
Yes, as I mentioned that these negotiations cover 16 countries, ASEAN, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, China, India. I think.
6 nations?
Yeah, 6 nations, and we believe that the total trade cover around 60% of Thailand trade with the global, and we believe that even though some of the countries we already have FTA with, but this will be a comprehensive FTA. It will cover beyond tariff reduction of goods, but we also expand to services and investment. And also other laws and regulation will have to be up, to have a higher standard. For example, competition law, intellectual property. So the objective is to enhance trade and investment between the FTA partners. And in July, Thailand will host the RCEP negotiations. I think it's a 23rd round among senior officials. So it will be an opportunity to try to encourage members to try to have substantial progress on the negotiations.
What kind of issues would Thailand like to see to be discussed at the upcoming meeting?
We want to see reduction of tariff among partners, because there are some FTA partners, for example, like India. Even though we have FTA between India and Thailand, but it hasn't covered all the tariff lines. So there's still many tariff lines that we have to discuss with India, and we want to see further tariff reduction. And I believe that India also may be interested to also have a talk with us regarding market access, perhaps on investment and on services. So it will be a good opportunity to try to find a balance and a mutual benefit among FTA partners.
Now, aside from RCEP, there's another agreement, CPTPP, the Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, we are actually not in this agreement.
Okay, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
But we are interested.
Yeah, we have expressed, interest to join, because at present the CPTPP hasn't yet entered into force. It covers 11 countries, and we know that if half of the members has already ratified, it means that CPTPP can enter into force. And when we discuss with the potential member of CPTPP, they believe that it can enter into force starting from next year. Right now, Dr. Somkit Jatusipichak, Deputy Prime Minister, he already mentioned that Thailand has interest to join CPTPP, and he has instructed my Department of Trade Negotiations, to prepare ourselves whether we are ready yet to join the CPTPP. So now it's a duty and responsibility of my department to talk to our stakeholder, because CPTPPs cover various number of issues, tariff, laws and regulation. So we have to discuss with private sector, government agency, as well as the civil society to see and to hear their comments, and to see whether if we want to join CPTPP, what should we prepare? Are there any laws and regulations that we have to adjust or not? And what will be the benefit that we're going to get?
So you'll be conducting a number of hearings before we actually see some progress.
Lots of work to do.
Now, as we're trying to establish economic partnership to see growth, there appears to be some trade barriers. So let me bring up one of the disputes that we see with our existing partners like Vietnam, which has recently imposed non-tariff barriers on cars imported from Thailand into their country. So what's the latest situation?
The latest situation is that we talk to our private sector, the Automobile Association, to see whether they effect from this measure that Vietnam brought, and we found that they feel a lot of impact on them, because actually since the beginning of this year, Vietnam has to reduce the tariff on automobile from 30% to 0%, and the car exporter plan to export around 60,000 cars, unit to Vietnam, but so far 5 months now they have managed to export only 10% of the plan. The problem is that Vietnam has introduced a new decree require that all the shipment model of the car export into Vietnam has to pass the lab test.
You mean like inspections?
Inspection on the emission test, and that's with the private sector see that's the problems, because there's only one lab and one agency to do the test. That means that the car export there will be queuing up at the port. Normally it takes only 3 or 4 days for the car to come out, but now they say it takes about 30 days. So what we plan to do after my department has consulted with the private sector, they feel that this measure is not right, because Vietnam have different measure, different treatment for domestic car. The domestic car doesn't have to pass this test. And the test for domestic car, they say that it's 3 years timeline, so it doesn't have to be every model, every shipment. They believe that if we have asked Vietnam, to do a MRA, mutual recognition agreement, it could be a good solution. And we have, our Prime Minister has proposed to Prime Minister of Vietnam that Thailand would like to do MRA on this issue, because if we have MRA, mutual recognition agreement, that means the car exporter from Thailand perhaps can ask the Thai agency to do the lab, to do the testing, and Vietnam has to accept it because it's mutual recognition.
I see.
So there's no need to wait for the queue at the port.
So let's hope that the negotiations become fruitful and successful soon. We'll now take another break right here. Don't go away just yet. We'll be back with more right here on Be My Guest. Welcome back to the program. Aside from the protectionist policies that we've seen in Vietnam, there's the ongoing US-China spat as well. What are your opinions on this trade dispute?
Actually, the trade dispute isn't good for anyone, but this is a dispute, especially the dispute between the major countries. So Thailand Ministry of Commerce, we follow the issue closely, and we have to talk to private sector to see whether the dispute between the major country affect them. But so far we also evaluate and try to follow on the products that these two countries impose tariff on each other.
It looks like the figures are growing and the items are getting longer on the list.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, there can be a positive, and negative. So far, we haven't yet see that it affect our export. The export volume still grow as expected, but in a way, we also foresee that there might be a trade diversion if the products from one country cannot go to the other countries, whether that product will divert to our country or not. Minister of Commerce is following, monitoring the trade closely because we also have a measure, it's called safeguard and anti-dumping measure that we can introduce if we see that there will be a flow of import that can hurt or injure our domestic industry. But on this part, we also need to request, assistance from private sector. The industry who know the products very well come and talk with us so that we can try to avoid any negative impact that will be passed to Thailand.
So there's no particular industry that has seen a direct impact as of the dispute that we're seeing, except for the volatility in the financial markets.
Yeah, but regarding the dispute between the two countries, as you mentioned, there are a number of products, aviation, electronics, and so we have to follow the issue closely. However, recently, U.S. Introduced measures that impose tariff on steel and aluminum to the world, and it might affect export of steel and aluminum from Thailand to the U.S. Even though when we look at the statistic, our export is only ranking very low in U.S. market. So the government has talked and submit information to U.S. Government that our products, doesn't injure or cause security in the U.S. The U.S. say that it's introduced this measure because import may harm the U.S. security, and so we submit information explaining that we don't see that it will affect U.S. security. So far, we also there's another channel that our exporter also have to consult with their U.S. trading partners, because the U.S. domestic industry can also submit information to the U.S. government. And we talk to the private sector. They also say that their request has very success, because some of the products that they have asked assistance from their partner has been exempt from tariff.
So in the meantime, as we see this trade in the world becoming more protectionist, or being protectionism as we call it, how is the DTN moving to encourage entrepreneurs, the business community to adapt to this wave of change that we are seeing?
Actually, I think the information, the knowledge, if they follow, the issue, because the world keep changing very rapidly, and we have to adjust ourselves, especially the Thai entrepreneur. The Department of Trade Negotiations, we try to improve, our database, so that if entrepreneur want to have some data in order to support their trade, they can use this, as well as law and regulation of our trading partner, the tariff that our trading partner impose. Another option is that right now we are entering Thailand 4.0, and we encourage for the private sector and entrepreneur not only trading traditional way, they also have to increase value to their products, put innovation, R&D and technology in the products in order to create different to the products, so that they can raise their comparative advantage.
And see some value-added products.
Yes, that's right.
In this value-based economy. As for your domestic policies, what are your current policies to actually drive the growth within the country, especially with the EEC project?
With the EEC project, because our department also has an opportunity to meet with dialogue partner very often. We have a forum that a meeting like ASEAN, a meeting like APEC, as well as a meeting bilateral level that we meet with our trading partners quite often. One of the issues that we brought and talked to them is regarding investment in EEC. We have encouraged and tried to persuade them to invest in the Eastern Economic Corridor, which this is the area where we promote the investment in the new S-curve industry like aviation, medical. So when we have a chance to talk to our trading partners, this is one of the topics that we brought up.
And you've mentioned that we've seen interest from countries like France and Russia.
Yes,
Is that so?
yes. We just have a meeting with France and Russia. We take turn to host. Last year, Thailand is a host, and this year, France going to host a meeting with us, I think quite soon, and Russia as well. And EEC, promotion of the EEC is also one of the topics. Actually, for France and Russia, they also express interest to invest in EEC because I think we see it as a mutual benefit because they may also want to expand their investment to overseas, and we see that Thailand is a good location because we are situated in the ASEAN country, and this region, we, as Thailand, can be a hub to export goods in the other part as well.
Kunarawan, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your strategic plans in actually helping boosting the economy through a number of missions that will be taking place throughout the year. Thank you very much. That has been a closer look at Thailand's developments on negotiating further trade opportunities through FTAs and settling obstacles impacting Thai businesses in the global arena. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining Be My Guest. I'm Cholapansa Narula. Swadika.